Life after death. Life after death has always been one of humanity's greatest concerns. Since the earliest records of civilization, in different cultures, we find symbols, rituals, and beliefs that attempt to answer the question, what happens when the heart stops beating, when the last breath escapes the lungs, and the eyes close never to open again in this world? Death is not just a biological end. It is the threshold of a mystery that fascinates, frightens, and, at the same time, gives meaning to life. When we look at the history of religions, we realize that all of them, without exception, sought to offer answers. Ancient Egypt spoke of the judgment of the soul before Osiris, where the heart was weighed against the feather of truth. In Greece, there was Hades, with its different destinies for heroes and common men. In Christianity, the promise of heaven and the warning of hell have shaped the lives of millions of believers over the centuries. Spiritism, through mediums like Allan Kardec and Chico Xavier, brought detailed accounts of spirits describing what they found on the other side. And even modern scientists, when studying near-death experiences, have encountered something that defies materialistic explanation. The theme is so universal that no one can escape it. The rich, the poor, the wise, the ignorant, all will have to face death. But is it really the end? Or would it just be the beginning of a new journey? Today, I want you to join me in this deep reflection. Do not expect ready-made answers or absolute truths. What I bring here is a mosaic of testimonies, experiences, religious teachings, and spiritual interpretations that point in the same direction. Death does not end existence. It merely opens the door to another dimension. Let's start with an essential point: the near-death experience. In hospitals around the world, thousands of patients have reported impressive episodes. People who were declared clinically dead for a few minutes and, upon returning, describe with surprising detail what they experienced. A tunnel of light, an indescribable feeling of peace, encounters with deceased relatives, a review of one's own life in seconds. There are accounts of those who saw the doctors around the operating table, who heard conversations taking place while they were unconscious, who left their bodies and saw everything from above. Many had no religious beliefs, but upon returning, they radically changed the way they viewed life. Science tries to explain these experiences as hallucinations caused by lack of oxygen in the brain, chemical discharges, or fragmented memories. But what is impressive is the coherence between accounts from people of different cultures, ages, and beliefs. How to explain that a 5-year-old child describes the same welcoming light as an 80-year-old, both without prior contact? How to justify that congenitally blind people report having seen during a near-death experience? These elements make us reflect. Are we facing something that transcends biological explanation? Spiritism offers an interesting key to interpretation. Allan Kardec, in the Spirit's book, stated that death is nothing more than the separation of the spirit and the body. The spirit remains conscious, carrying with it its identity, memories, and learnings. Chico Xavier, one of the greatest mediums of the 20th century, psychographed hundreds of letters from deceased loved ones, bringing intimate details that only the family could confirm. In many of them, the spirits described the moment of disincarnation, the sensation of detachment, the initial confusion, the perception of being out of the body, and then the reception by family members or spiritual guides. But it's not just spiritualism that talks about this. Jesus Christ said in the Gospel, "In my Father's house are many mansions." This phrase is an invitation to imagine that spiritual reality is multiple, with different planes and stages of evolution. The Apostle Paul stated, "If we have hope in Christ only in this life, we are the most miserable of all people." In other words, for Christianity, life does not end with death. It transforms into eternity, either in paradise with God or separated from Him. And what about the Eastern traditions? Hinduism and Buddhism speak of reincarnation as a continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, until the soul reaches enlightenment and is freed from the wheel of samsara. For these religions, death is not a tragic end, but a necessary passage. Each life is an opportunity for learning, and each death a chance for a new beginning. Now, let's go beyond religious traditions. Think about how many ordinary people have reported supernatural encounters after the death of someone close. A mother who feels the presence of her deceased son, a father who dreams of his daughter asking him to take care of the family, people who say they receive messages in dreams, premonitions, mysterious signs. Psychology may call this grief mechanisms, but the impact of these experiences is so profound that it often completely transforms a person's life. Another fascinating point is the so-called life review. Many who have had near-death experiences report that, in seconds, they saw a movie of their entire existence. But not just as spectators. They felt the impact they had on others. If they hurt someone, they felt that person's pain. If they helped, they experienced gratitude. This review seems to be a process of heightened awareness, as if each gesture had eternal consequences. This makes us reflect. Is life after death also a reckoning with one's own conscience? Now think, if death were just the end, why have so many different cultures, without contact with each other, created such similar rituals and beliefs about the survival of the soul? Is it just a coincidence, or is there a universal truth behind it? There are also accounts of people who have had out-of-body experiences, known as astral projections. Many describe having consciously left their bodies, traveled to distant places, and even encountered other disembodied beings. Some researchers in the field of parapsychology have studied the phenomenon using scientific methods, recording cases in which information seen out of the body was later confirmed. And here we reach a crucial point. Life after death is not just a matter of faith, but also of experience. Increasingly, testimonies from ordinary people, mediumistic accounts, and even scientific research point in the same direction. Consciousness does not depend solely on the brain. When the body dies, consciousness may continue to exist in another dimension. But don't think that life after death is a homogeneous and equal state for everyone. Many spiritual accounts describe different conditions, according to the life each person led. There are those who report luminous environments of peace and harmony, where they reunited with family members. Others speak of dark regions of suffering, inhabited by disturbed spirits. Chico Xavier described spiritual colonies, such as the famous No Solar, where spirits work, study, and evolve. The Bible, in turn, speaks of heaven and hell, the final judgment and the resurrection. For many, these images are symbolic, representing states of consciousness. Heaven would be communion with the divine, and hell, separation from God. Deep down, both views agree that our choices here on earth echo beyond death. And here is the great lesson. Talking about life after death is, above all, talking about life. Because if death is not the end, then every gesture matters, every word weighs, every attitude builds what we will find on the other side. Life after death is not just a metaphysical curiosity, it is a call to live better today. So I ask you, do you believe there is life after death? Have you ever had an experience that you can't explain? Have you felt the presence of someone who has already passed away? Share in the comments. Your story can help other people who are also seeking answers. In the end, perhaps the greatest certainty is this: death is not the eternal night, but the dawn of a new life. And each of us, one day, will cross this mysterious veil. Until then, what remains for us is to live with purpose, love, and faith, knowing that the end is just the beginning.